Status. Orchard one. Lots of PR merged. I saw also some changes from Lambic. We'll see that. So 7 days. Jasmine on the theme, admin theme. Jasmine on the admin theme. Again, merging dev into the admin theme. So that's good. Then all these PRs from yeah, where there's something. Even the laser guys, there is none from them. Where are they? That's weird. They're always there, even at the triage. So we merge added using System.Linq and C# scripting. So it's a use System.Linq namespace so that the C# scripting workflow activity can use link. Jobs queue menu item visibility for site owners only. So there's a new permission. No, that's not a new permission. We are hiding the jobs queue for everyone. We are using site owner right now. Because this is the case in the controller, so the menu item is hidden also now. This one is so for those who didn't know, and I think we talked about it also in Orchard 2 with Antoine, I'm not sure. So this, you see AZ, this is letters from A to Z, and this is any Unicode letter that is valid in the name, and this is the official way in the specification for the emails. So \P curly braces uppercase L. This is weird, but that's how it works. So in the emails now, with more unit tests. Okay, so you can see now you can use this one. ProjectionManager Extension. This is a new interface if you want to support, I think, no, it's if you want to be able to inject the projection part itself as part of the tokens. So because it had not to be breaking change, there is a new interface for that. And I open an issue to remove this interface when you move to dev. So we can inject it in ProjectionManager directly. Export step flag to work with refactored step. What is it? Oh, there was a breaking change for this when we refactored the import export module. Some of the steps were not taken into account in the commands, so this PR fixes it from Bit Gaming. So this is the attachment for the SMTP settings, and we changed the email test form just to send an email for the user to verify that the email works. You can't pass any parameters anymore, but it's just to test the email settings, not the email feature. A user's own media folder name provider. So this is a way to extend how the media folder names are generated for each user, because in the past it was not accepting some chars, and the username could have these chars. So now there is an encoding of the folder name, and we ensure that the encoding doesn't add any security issue, like some other username could collide with this encoded thing. So it's not a breaking change because all the currently accepted username chars will still work, and now we can accept more of them. So this is good, and this is just an extension if you want to customize how the folder names are generated if you want to use IDs, for instance. but the default one is just encoding the name. This one added support for culture neutral patterns. Culture neutral patterns, so patterns that would work with any localization. Okay, it was up here, and just my testing, I think he said. What do we get now? We got Mike and Sipke arrived. Everyone else was still there. Dev branch, this is merging 110x into dev, and it works. Thank you, Daniel. And by merging it, all the issues were closed. So this one from Lombik, adding ability to remove draft and adding grouping to summary. Okay, I would have liked to see a demo of the new UI. I don't know, is that you, Janos, who did that? Or was it Zoltan? If you have time later, you can prepare it in the meantime, if you want. Remove draft and adding grouping to SummaryAdmin content menu. So we saw the issues. The idea was also to display more information about the current draft and be able to remove a draft without publishing the content item. It looks nice, yeah. So, but then, so Thierry, you will do the demo. Whoever will do the demo, we'll see. So OpenID setting through UI. So Sergio's still working on OpenID, and I think it's almost done. So I'd like him to do a demo at some point. He's not here. I'll have to ask him. Refactoring. So what is interesting is now is we found a way to provide application settings into the actual middlewares. So it's by using a specific interface which is called iConfigure option. So this is a specific pattern that only applies for those who work on Orchard 2 and site settings. But now we have examples for that. So it looks nice. Shape table refactoring from Jean-Thierry, which is actually a PR which has been merged. Let me check. I think this was the full PR which has been merged. Yes, so refactoring the shape table so that we can reuse shape tables across tenants. Fixing SDK version, so we force the SDK version in case you have multiple SDKs locally on your machine. Added the .NET Core readme. Yeah, this is just to explain how to start Orchard, that you need to install the .NET Core runtime and CLI. Update to Bootstrap 4 with breaking changes. The pool right is now called float right, and so on. A body parts editor I will show you. So now you can have flavors for the body part. Support for multiple content types list. Yes, this also is new. So I will just add it just to show that it's new. List with multiple content types. Precompiled view support from Jean-Thierry. This is so this is interesting because in Orchard 1 it was really hard to do. I know only one customer who was able to make it work. So precompiled views is about during the deployment step, the compilation step, you precompile all the views into their own assembly or with the modules assembly. This way, when you first start the application, it won't have to compile the views. They will be already precompiled. And you deploy the application with the assembly containing all the views compiled. You don't need to deploy the views, actually. If you deploy them, it will be useless. And he started working on a way to cache the compilation, actually, across restarts. But instead of having our own code with our own feature like this, I asked him to support precompiled views, which is a new feature in ASP.NET 1.1. Yeah, it's very hard in Orchard, but there is a way, but I don't even remember. So now it just supports the standard command line from ASP.NET MVC. .NET-Razor precompile, and it will work. Because there is an extensibility point in MVC to be able to plug the views we want to compile when this command is called. And it works. So he made multiple attempts, but now it's working very nice. So that's good. We might want to add this command on the .NET publish command, for instance. password strength indicator from Antoine. So I can show it to you actually. It will require a setup. So this is so password strength. So yeah, there is a nice progress bar based on the complexity of your password, which actually matches the predefined or pre-configured complexity of the actual password. Well, the actual predefined settings. Removing unused views, so refactoring. What else? Markdown, I will show you. Nicolas and Jean-Thierry working also now on fixing the features ordering. Precompiled use fixes. Refactoring. Antoine is still working on the fields. He also made a middleware that I'm reviewing right now to render. I'm reviewing. I have more questions than review comments so far, but that's good progress to understand how it works. So he's generating the generator tag from a middleware. Again, I think it's important because this is the only way for us to know if people are using Orchard and if we are growing our user base, because we don't track users. We can just track the sites that run with Orchard. Serve static files from media folder. This is a branch, but I assume you will remove it because the media folder will actually be the www root, which is already configurable in the configuration. So you can just change the name in the configuration to go to media. And this, yep, so we'll see when we have an actual media module. This is from Sergio on the OpenId thing. This is improvement on the identity module. I will show you. This is very important. I want some feedback. And then this is the menu module. So demos, questions. Before I show that. Okay. I broke content preview, but not at all. We'll see. So this is the new module administration. So this link now works. I fixed this link, and you can see there is a nicer menu because I made it. First, I want to show you the body part. So I enabled, well, the feature is enabled by default. I think if I go to the body module, yeah, the feature is in the default body module. This thing, the flavors, actually the default editors. So like in Orchard 1, there is now the notion of flavor for the body part setting. I call it editor here. I call it editor for body parts, okay? And it works the same way as in Orchard 1. I would say even simpler than in Orchard 1. You don't have to expose the flavor. It will find it automatically by looking into the shapes. And if you do body dash something dot option, no, sorry, body dash something dot editor, it will use it, okay? So body dash WYSIWYG and body dash default. So by default, when you use the body part, it will be the default editor which will be used. And you can also select the WYSIWYG editor. So I used in this naming, and this is my first question or for feedback. Instead of having something called body dash tinymc, which is still possible, I did two default views. The default one, which is the raw editor text area right now, and the WYSIWYG, which is using also some of one of the JavaScript editor that we can find. But I call them not with tinymc or the name of the thing which is using, but default and WYSIWYG. So that when you don't care about which one is used, but you just say use the WYSIWYG one, then if one day you want to change the default WYSIWYG one, you can just override the body WYSIWYG one. And everyone saying, I just want the WYSIWYG one, will use the same one. Or if you want to change the default editor for the body, then you just change the body default editor shape. Okay? You can still create a module called tinymc, called ckEditor, called whatever editor, and have the body dash tinymc, and user will be able to select either the default WYSIWYG or the tinymc. And TinyMC can also override the WYSIWYG one, or even the default one if you want. Okay, it's just logical names for default and WYSIWYG, like raw and WYSIWYG. Okay, I think that's better. So now if I go to content definition and I go to article, and I click on the body part, now I can see that because I enabled, well, not because I enabled a feature, but there are two shapes, so it's showing the name of the two shapes, standard and WYSIWYG editor, and it's doing that by having the options shape. So this is how you will provide new values in the select editor here. This option is this shape. So to add something in this select box, you just create a shape called body foo.option. Okay. You don't need to create a service or whatever, so even a theme could provide these shapes without any code. And then when you select one like this one, you save, and if you go to the article, now it's a simple HTML editor. Okay. This is the WYSIWYG editor, and the name of this library is called TrumboWYG. Okay, this was the most famous one I could find on GitHub. But again, it's not this shape is not called TrumboWYG, it's called WYSIWYG. We are free to change the default editor whenever we want. It's just, the contract is just provide me with a WYSIWYG editor. Okay, if we want to provide TinyMC on purpose, then we'll make a module called TinyMC. The issue I have with TinyMC right now and CK editor is that they are not open source friendly or open source distribution friendly, because they will require any commercial site to pay a license. So this one is completely MIT. But we can change it whenever we want. Still flat UI, very simple, and preview. Oh, this is what I broke. Okay, and you can see I also integrated it with the events. So if I change, I broke everything. Okay, good. I need to fix this. Or maybe I didn't integrate it with it. I think I did. So I must have broken it with the menu work. I will check that. Yeah, simple and nice, works. Then I did the same thing for Markdown. So I created a module called Markdown, which is almost exactly like the body module, but working with Markdown. So what I didn't want to do is an editor for Markdown like we have in Orchard 1. I wanted to have a custom part for Markdown, because if we start work editing the text of the body as Markdown, we can't change back to HTML. So it doesn't make sense to change back to an HTML editor if we are using a Markdown editor. Or if we started with HTML moving to Markdown. It might work, but it's ugly. Let's say it won't work. So I did another part. So if you want a Markdown body, you can add the part called Markdown part. Okay, and this will provide the same behavior as the body provides, which is providing the body aspect. Like you can be the body of any content item because you can render the HTML body of the content item. Okay, like for RSS, for summaries, and so on. And it also has the same logic for the editor. So you will have a Markdown default editor and a Markdown WYSIWYG editor. And this one is using a simple MD editor. So if I go and create a new content type, I could add it to article, but I will create a blog post. And I won't add body, but I will add a Markdown. This is a feature I enabled before. So title and auto route, save. I will edit auto route to say slug. I will, that's it. I will edit the Markdown part. So standard, I will show you with standard because that makes sense. New blog post, and this is a standard for Markdown. So if I edit body, I say, oh, I need a title because otherwise it won't work. Blog post 1, okay. This is some, and you see this is the raw editor. So I just see the Markdown value, but on the right you can see live that it's rendering. okay, as I type. And I can add title, and you can have bullet points. So it's just rendering Markdown. This is a Markdown code, and then so I publish this, and I get my nice URL. And if I go back to the types blog post and the Markdown, and I say I want to use a WYSIWYG editor, we don't change the content, it's still Markdown, but the editor itself changes. So if I go to the blog post, now this is the same kind of editor as the body, but you have directly the WYSIWYG of your Markdown here in the editor, and you can still, if you want, use the preview. Okay? Looks good? And this one works live. I must have not implemented that in the WYSIWYG editor for the body. I will check. Questions so far? Comments? Complaints? Disagreement? Markdown is a flavor. No, Markdown is not a flavor. Nope, it's choice. You have to make on your content type. Okay. Feel free to disagree, because if you don't say anything, I assume that you agree with what I say. George will say something. Waiting. Okay. And same thing, you can provide more Markdown editors with other modules. Okay. Or you can redefine what the default WYSIWYG experience is for all the types who are using already the WYSIWYG editor. And we don't want to make a choice on the specific editor. This one also has like the full page experience, and I don't know how to close it. Escape. Link to the, yeah. You can see the result directly here also, but who cares? We have live preview, and it's configurable. Okay, so that's it for Markdown. What do I have also? Identity. I want to talk about identity. I don't think I can show the password editor if I don't. Oh yes, I can. Look at that. Multi-tenancy. I will create a new tenant. Foo, whatever, create. And if I go to Fopo, you can see now this bar. And as you see, so this also dynamic. Okay. Password must have. So this is from real settings. So this text is rendered dynamically and still translatable. And if you type something, you see it's red, orange. And as I will type the last char which will validate my pattern, it will be green. Okay. And if I don't, this was a special char. If I type not a special char, it won't evolve because it needs a special char. I haven't started to type the special char yet. If I type the special char, it's green. So it's not just strength, but it's more like compliance with the rules, which implies strength, default strength. Okay, that looks good. I like it. Thank you, Antoine. Then identity. I change identity, and we might want to change it more. Very important. Are you listening? Bertrand, I hope you are listening. Are you listening? Very important. I know you care about identity. Yes, thank you. Look at that. Be ready to comment. So, identity. I extended identity, and I still want to do maybe some core changes. What I did with identity is, like before, it's still a GUID, but it can be something else than a GUID now. So I made settings on the identity part. Let me show you in the app. I did settings in the identity part. So if I look at the menu, I did that for the menu actually. It made sense for the menu. So if I look at the menu content type, you will see it as a menu items list, and it has identity. So why did I do that? Is because now I have lots of options, but we might want to simplify that. Now there is option to display the identity editor. Okay, so before, when you had in Orchard 1, when you had the identity part, it generates a GUID, but you don't see it. There is no way to see the GUID. It's just when you export it that you can see it. Or at least I don't know any way to see it. Now I say display identity editor, so it shows up in the editor if you want. Okay. Then you can allow identity change if you want to let the user to change the value, which is kind of redundant with allow custom identity. I have to check what I did with that. So this way, the editor, when you show it, can also be changed. So you can change the value of the identity. No, I know. So a custom identities, you can set the value of the identity. You don't have to rely on the GUID. You can type, for instance, menu-name. You provide a logical identity. Like a URL would provide a logical identity. It's called alias in Orchard 1. Okay, it's the author route it's the path in Orchard 2. But you can say, oh, my identity, I don't want a GUID. I want a unique name that I define. My main menu. Okay, it's unique. And if you allow identity change, this is a third option. This is very dangerous. You see, use with care, as some other parts of the system might already be using this identifier. Not sure we need that, but it will allow you to, because you know what you're doing, to change the identity of the item at some point. Like if I call my menu main menu, and I know nobody is using my identifier, and I change the menu to secondary menu, you can change the identity if you want. It's dangerous, but you could do that. And then there is the show name editor, which is an extension to identity. Identity now can also provide, the identity part can also provide a name property, like just for display text. It's not a title that will also provide a H1. It's a name, a friendly name of the content item. That could be used for the H1, but it's not title. It's just a friendly name to the identity. Because in lots of content items, we provide a name property, and we don't care about the collisions. We just want the name to show in the admin screens. It's not a title. It's just in admin screens we want a nice name, like main menu. And the identity, I think, made sense for that as an option. Like, okay, I have an identity, but I have a loose identity with the name. So I don't know if there are comments. I don't hear anything. Yes, yes. So yeah, maybe we need a name part. I just use this one. That's why I want to see to have feedback. On D, that you. Oh, I missed lots of comments. D, not D. Okay, MD. Okay, Markdown. Okay. Yes, could be risky. Why don't you use permission for that? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that could be a permission. Can change identity, but at the same time, yeah, both show editor and change identity. Yeah, we can talk about them. So how does it look like? If I edit a menu, so this is the identity part, and this is why here you have main menu, and if I had unchecked the option can change the identity, it will be grayed out. So you can set it once, and when the content item is not created, and once it's created, you can't change it. But it could be also permissions. Okay. And name is just to identify an item with a nice thing. Yeah, maybe we should have, you're right. We can just use a custom part, like we have title part, we can have a name part. Oh, I know why I made it in the identity. I wanted to be able to drive the identity name based on the name. Like while Drupal does that a lot, and we also have it in content types. When you type the friendly name, as you type, the identity changes. Because you said, I want a name, so identity will match the name and ensure it's unique still. That's why I want them to be related. We could make the behavior work if the two parts are together on the same content type, though, so that's still doable.
Okay, so that's interesting. So the way this works with the slug is that the auto route is slugifying the title using token pattern, right?
Yeah,
so it seems like that was a good pattern, but this looks like it's putting in identity something that's, first thing, it's putting in identity something that is not identity related, and second, it doesn't allow for extensibility. So driving the ID from tokens might be the right way of doing that.
But the auto-completion will just be a hint, because I just want to, I want to be able to type it, like token. Yeah, in auto-route you still can. Yes, right. Okay, I see. So yes, so what you suggest is that put name apart. Don't use name in identity.
Yeah, you might actually want to derive that from the title, or I don't know. You might want it to be the same as the slug, or who knows.
So use tokens also for identity, correct? Yep, and we could use the slug token to generate the same thing by default, and it will not be dynamic when you type, but well, it will be rendered, and then you can change it if you want, if you allow the option. So, okay, should we have a name part? Because lots of things have names and they're not title.
Like such as what?
Menu. It could be title will render H1 when rendered, for instance.
Well, unless the template is overridden for that content type.
Yeah, but yes and no. Unless the title view for this content item.
Semantically, it's a title.
I see. Yeah, but okay. So you think we should use title part also for these items?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also using a display text, which I made name for.
Nice that.
And we have, and I also a good argument for that is that whenever in Orchard when I was using name, it's because it was not a content item. So if it's a content item, we can just use title. So okay. Okay, yeah, maybe it doesn't make sense to have name here. Okay, so use tokens for identity. So you like the idea that we can have a custom identity?
Sure.
This is very important. I will show you why.
For what it's worth, it's all I have in Sense currently.
Okay.
So, yeah,
so identity. Okay. Other comments? Please talk because I'm not looking at the chat. Identity, remove name. And the default, we could have a token with grid. Boom. This will solve an issue I have today. Okay, this way it's consistent. Thank you. What else? Okay. Comment while you are talking. Markdown, what do you want to say?
What did I have to say? Yeah, it's above. It's that the having Markdown as a flavor was opening the door for having, as a feature, having a way to override what flavor you have at the content item level instead of at the content type level. So imagine a blog where you have some legacy posts that are in HTML and you want to switch to Markdown. You don't have to have two separate content types. You can actually choose on a post-by-post basis which flavor you have. So I admit that it's just one scenario, but
yeah. I
kind of like flavors for that That's sort of.
No, there was so many issues with that. Look at the filters. We had to hardcode in the filter which flavor we will be able to support. So it was breaking the extensibility.
Really?
Yes, look at the Orchard 1 code. That's why yeah. So for instance, the filters we have, and
what filter is that?
The BB code filter, for instance, or there is another one. The tokenizer filter also for bodies we had, and we were checking. Oh wait, if the flavor is Markdown, then do it differently.
Yeah.
So I didn't like it. There was some hardcoding.
Can we fix that part of the design somehow? And so currently you don't have flavors.
The issue is that the body part dot text, we don't even know what it contains. We can't assume it's HTML or Markdown. You see the issue we have there?
Why?
Because we don't know. Body part dot text in Orchard 1, it depends on the flavor, and the flavor doesn't state what's the physical format of the thing. It's hard to.
Well, you could ask the flavor provider.
And then we have to have a list of available and supported formats, and I'm like,
no, that should be an extensibility.
It's a mess. No, it's a mess in Orchard 1. I'd rather.
No, I'm not saying we should have the same design as in Orchard 1. I'm just saying that the idea of a flavor is actually valuable. I mean, you can work around it. You can have in your blog post content type, you can have both parts and choose to feel more.
Switch in the view, yeah.
That's shitty.
Shitty, but yeah.
Because you will always have them private.
So what you can have instead, and this is what I will be about to show, is you could have a custom Markdown blog post. So in your blog, you have a Markdown blog post and a blog post, if you want.
Yeah,
you call them
so
what
you have two content types.
And that's fine.
Yeah. It works. It's a workaround. So you have two workarounds. Well, so it's not the end of the world, but I'm thinking we may be letting that idea of flavor a little too fast.
That if flavors is just, well, first, who is using flavors today and for what? In the websites.
Well, so, for pretty much that scenario, being able to
have your
treat bodies
yes.
the same.
Yes.
No matter
well,
been written.
Well, people they just say no. I want my blog in Markdown.
Yeah, but what if you already have some HTML posts? Then you need two content types.
And if you already have some HTML posts, then you need two content types. You can say yes, and maybe tomorrow you will want to switch between.
I'm the only one to think that flavors were a good idea. That's fine. I can let go of that.
And again, we still have flavors. I mean, for what they were, for some of the things they were doing in Orchard 1, you can change the editor and the type of content you want in the. No, you're right. Flavor has no more the type of content because you decided before, Markdown or body part.
By the way, I'm wondering how you will import flavors from Orchard 1 to Orchard 2.
Import, in this case, it will be a custom thing, like if flavor equals Markdown, create a Markdown part. Because there is no import logic so far from Orchard 1 to Orchard 2. It will be a specific script which will generate the import file for Orchard 2.
Okay, fine.
Knowing special cases like this one and other. And in blog post, you could have a body, an HTML post, a Markdown post, you could have an image post, a video post, and whatever. They are not flavors. It means, I mean, they are type of posts, and they are rendered differently, and you can have behavior on different posts. That's even better.
Okay, fine.
And in Orchard 1, we also have flavors on the text field, an option to...
Yep, same thing. I want an HTML field or a Markdown field. And then you can choose the editor for these things.
Okay.
And this way, when you render your view or your template, you know what content you will have. I have Markdown, so I need to render it with Markdown. I need to treat it this way. I have HTML. Like we don't have a text. Bertrand, I will give you, I hope, a good argument. We don't have an input field and a flavor called numeric or text or email or whatever. Sorry. For the same reason, it's the physical format is different.
Yeah, semantics are different.
Okay, I'm maybe pushing the limits, but not that much.
Yeah, it's okay.
So list, let me show you quickly. It's very easy, not much to show actually, but it works beautiful. So if you create content definition types called blog, create now when you create your blog. Where is my blog? Oh, parts, title, author out, done. And when you go, oh yeah, I'm stupid. List. If I go to the list part, I showed it last week because, yes, we talked about it last week, sorry. Now you can select multiple content types, okay? Like a blog is a list of blog posts, an article maybe. Beautiful, love it. But we talked about it already. I mean, now I show it, I realize. What else? Menus. Menus, so I showed you, by default, if you enable the menu module, you have a menu type, which has the identity part and the name and whatever. And it's a content item. A menu is a content item, which allows you to draft your menus. It's beautiful. And menu items are content items based on content types, so you can extend them with custom parts. Okay, or provide them by module or whatever. But the menu items are content items, but they don't have the storage as in content items. They are part of the menu. Okay, very important. So there is, when I create a menu content item, there is one document in the database. Whatever the number of menu items there is, even if they are dynamic or not, there is one document, one JSON document containing all the menu items in a hierarchy, and I will show you. So if I go to new and say new menu, because I made the menu creatable, it's not the default. When I say new menu, and this is what I want to replace by GUID or whatever slug, which will take the title part. So here you can create a name like foo menu, identity, and name, I will call it foo menu. Okay? And you can't add menu items until you have created the actual menu. Okay, so I can save or publish now. I will save, like a draft. Okay? And now I can add a menu item. When I say add menu item, it's the same UI. I didn't improvise. It's the same UI as, remember, the steps when you say add step in the deployment plan. So it's just listing the available content types that have the menu item part. Oh, that are of menu item stereotype, sorry. And it will ask them to render in a shape, the shape in a display type called thumbnail, like in the steps. So you can customize what's there. It's a shape, it's UI. So with your content type, you can provide what UI is there, like with an icon, or we can change it later. Okay, it's just what you want here. And it's translatable because it's just a shape. So here I only have one content type, which is from the stereotype menu item. It's a link menu item, the simplest one, but it's dynamic. So if I say add, now I go to not the actual content editor, content controller, but a custom controller, which does the same, just shows all the part editors. It's just that we don't want to save the content item as a separate content item. We want to get the content item itself to save it as part of the menu. So we can't use the same editor controller, okay? But it's exactly the same. Using parse and placement, this is the same one. You're just calling update or editor, I think. So here, this guy, this is the link menu part thing, has a name and a URL. Okay, very simple. So for instance, home /. Okay, this is a typical example. Save. And it went back to my menu editor, saved it to the item I was editing, like the draft, and I have the menu item here, which I can edit, okay, to change the values. And I can add a sub-element to this one. I have a link here, or I can delete the element. This UI here is the display template called .admin for menu item. So menu item.admin is the generic one, and you can have for each your content type, you can render it differently because it's just a content item with a display type. If I add a sub item, I can add this one, and I can add a home sub URL /sub, and you see it appears below. And I implemented the same plugin as in Orchard one, so now you can reorder things up, and it's reordered, but it's not saved. There is no alert so far, but if you try to do something, it will tell you like, oh, changes you made not be saved. Okay, stay. I want to save. Okay, save or publish again, draft and so on. So this works like in Orchard one, but the content is just one content item. It's just one document. Okay, and you can have multiple types. So let me try something because I haven't tried it. If I go, there is a UI bug, you saw that, but if I had a field, maybe I broke everything. If I say CSS class, I have no idea if it works. I haven't tried it. I'm just relying on the... Okay. Okay. Interesting. So if I go to my content items and I go to the menu, and I go edit, not this one, I wanted the full menu. And if I go edit the home, boom! That's good, that's good. Save. Oh, interesting, because it's using the editor, okay, it's rendering also the fields with their default display type. Okay, fine. CSS class on page. We can improve that, the UI. Good, good. So that seems to work. And the content of the field is inside the menu item content item, which itself is inside the menu. So everything is loaded once. So now how do you use the menu? In Orchard 1, to render the menu, we use a widget, right? We don't have widgets in Orchard 2, so we can't render it. But I made a shape. Well, it's a shape called menu. The rendering of the menu, the loading of the menu items is handled by the shape, the menu shape on invoke, which is when the item is not cached. So whenever we need to render it, the shape will itself load everything that it needs to do. And to render it, it's easy because so far I'm editing the layout. Oh, because you saw that when I go to the home page. Oh crap! This is a bug. It's taking the other tenant. Oh my god, there's a bug here. And I can't even delete that. Oh my god. Okay, there's an issue with the running shape table, the running shell table. Okay, so you see this menu. This is the one I called main menu. This one. And if I change the thing like name 5, I move it there, publish, and I have 5 here, boom, name 5 is there. Okay, it's no more there. So it works. So how do I render that? I just went to the layout for the theme. And you can see the customizations of the menu for my theme, which is based on Bootstrap 3. So here,
hello?
In the layout.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. Hello.
Is it this one?
Oh, sorry. I think I just joined your meeting by accident.
That's fine. So if you look at the menu here, this is a shape. So this thing is a shape tag helper. So this is just instantiating a menu shape, assigning the property identity, and rendering the shape itself. And this is exactly the same as doing new.menu, which is creating the menu shape, assigning the identity property main menu, and calling display. This is just a shape tag helper. So this is nice. Okay, I showed it to you like last year, something like this. So menu identity, and what the menu shape does, if you provide an identity, it will try to resolve the identity of the content item and find the content item by its identity. And this is why we have main menu here as identity. You can also say content item ID equals 1, 2, 3, but it doesn't make sense because it will change if you re-import your site. So the logical identity is much better. And this is why it's nice to be able to change, to see first the value, to be able to place a GUID if you want, or to define a nice identity. Because for the designer, it will make much more sense to understand what happens here and what to type if he wants to change things. And the menu will then try to render the menu shape, which itself will see, oh, you want the identity that, so let me load the content item and render it. And this is why you see things this way. Okay. Nice thing also by using a shape is that all the shapes in Orchard 2 can be cached. So you can say cache key equals main menu layout, for instance, or menu, that works too. And you can add cache duration, cache context, cache dependencies, things like this, okay? And then, because it's just a shape, your menu will be cached automatically based on the key and the parameters you provide, okay? And also the invalidations that you can provide. It's called cache context. I showed it again, something 6 months ago when I implemented that. So that's how it works while we don't have widgets, okay? Because widgets just do that with logic, so we could also have some logic here. Or yeah, good. Comments on many sides because there is the editor, the menus, how it works. So you might have lots of questions.
Will you create it in the default CMS recipe? Main menu.
So if it doesn't exist, it won't render any menu. So I don't know. Maybe we should do that. Create a main menu in the default recipe with the home page at least, and add it to the default layout just for now, until we have a better story, if we ever have a better story.
Mm-hmm.
How would you manage menus with a lot of menu items? What's the issue and how will you solve that? So what we can...
When you have a lot of menu items, it's really difficult to reorder it.
Okay, so what you can do with this module, and I haven't done that, but you can do that with this version, we might want to add collapse expand icon on the left, so we can collapse menu items.
Yes. Okay.
Because we can do that with this version. Let me show you. jQuery nested sortable. So they have updated it. jQuery nested sortable here, which now is not this one but this one. And if you go to the example page, demo, you see, boom, boom. So this is supported now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so you think it's necessary, I will do that. Or later, but it's doable. It's just updating the editor for the menu part.
Okay.
Because it's also a content item, it can be localized, even though widgets will support that, but it can be localized too. The fact that it's draftable is very, I think, nice, because I think Ilan had complained about it by the past, that you need to be able to draft the menu, because you don't want to push the changes as you create the content items. You need a transaction somehow. Other comments? Looks good. We have menus. We can make a website. We have menu management, so we can edit live the pages, and you can create a page content type, an article content type, add them to the menu, render the things. We can have a blog post with post and Markdown, and so it's starting to have some good shape, I think. Antoine mentioned open a bunch of issues for blogs, which are not blocking, but like we don't have RSS feeds for now, but I think we should just port what we have in Orchard 1. It was fine and everyone was happy. We might want to create a shape to be able to render an RSS link on purpose. What else? What are we missing? He was also mentioning, do we need a page content type by default?
Yes.
Probably.
And also, there is no more command part.
Command part, yeah, we might. I don't know. We might want to. We don't need a part to have common features like this. We can just implement a content driver which will apply to everything. And the command part had things that today are in the content item, like the modified, the author. So if it's, I don't know why you mentioned it. It was clear.
How do you display the publish date of the blog post?
Yes, you can just do it by default in the summary of SummaryAdmin.
Oh.
You create a custom driver which works on content, and it will just display it in the SummaryAdmin for everything. The other question was also to be able to show some options like date editor and things like this. This can be options at the content type level that will drive this thing. So you don't need a part to that. You just add type settings. And on the type settings, you can decide to display or not these editors, which will be driven by a common content part display driver. You see? Yep. Good? Questions? No questions. Okay, no comments. Good. An audit part that will have all the audit data. What's your idea behind that? To store the audit data with the content item?
I'm not sure how the current audit stuff works.
Oh.
Might be.
What, you mean the modified date and things like this?
Yeah. So, I was just thinking this looks like stuff that is about auditing.
Yeah, so like in command part, which was unique, we had a published, modified, and created date and the owner. We have the same properties, but in content item today. They are not the command part anymore. Every content item has an owner, modified, published, and created date.
Yeah.
And then the history of the values is not handled. It's just the current value. Well, you have it in the previous versions, which you didn't have before. Yes, you might have had it before because command part was version. So now each content item object, each version of the content item has its own value, and you can't change them. So you have kind of the history of the.
I see. Yeah, that sounds good.
And what I was mentioning to Antoine is that, and instead of relying on the common part driver, we just do a content item driver, something which executes for every content item if we want to do something like this now as a common. And the type settings can configure the behavior of this rendering. User creator and the last modifier of a content. It's in the document, so it's there. We'll have an audit trail module that will be able to show you the full history of a content item. Oh, something I wanted to talk about, identity, very important, very important. So when I have the layout here, the one I showed you, it's very important. Bertrand, I want your opinion, and everyone else's opinion. Identity main menu. So before having identity main menu, I'm like, oh crap, I need to render a menu and to decide which one I want. So I use the content item ID, okay? Which you understand is bad because content item ID, even though it will be fixed it won't depend on number of published version and draft. It will be the same like content item ID number 12. So if I go to the editor, I go to my main menu. I know it's 550. This is my menu. 550 is the content item ID I want to display. And this will display the published version of this content item ID. Okay? But putting 550 here is bad, because if I deploy my site somewhere or I import it in another website, then the ID might be different. Okay? This is not a physical ID. Okay? So we have to understand that in the database, a content item document has an ID, which might be 15, and a content item ID, which might be 550. Okay? So when you create a new version, it will be, 16, but the content item ID will still be 550. So it's a logical identifier. The content item ID is a logical identifier. So in theory, you could use it in the import-export files to reference the content item. Okay, we don't need an alias or whatever. It's a logical ID, so it should be unique and constant, even if you import it in another database. The issue, because it's a number like this, is if you import it in another database, it might be ID 96 in the other database, but there might already be a content item ID 550 that is not the same one in the other database, because it's not unique across the database. It's unique and constant in one of the database. It's a logical ID, but there might be some conflict in the other one. So for this reason, we can't use that as an identifier, okay, like main menu. It's sad because it's almost there. So if we had, for instance, the instance name like DB name, DB1-50, 550, that will work. Okay, but it's not the case, or node instance, but we can't do that. And that's sad. So this is why we need identity part with a GUID or a custom name. What if, instead of having content item ID as a number like this, we had a GUID? Okay. If we had a GUID, then we could use it as a content item ID. We could use it as the logical identifier also during import-export. And we could use it also here if you want, like content item ID equals and the GUID, okay? And that will work. It will be ugly, but that will work. And we are sure that even if we import-export, it will work. There will be no conflict because it's a GUID. So I'm wondering if we should jump the shark and even just for content item ID, use a GUID. It's not a database primary key, okay? It's a logical ID.
I don't get why you don't use where ID, real identity exists.
550?
The content item. No, not that one. I don't care about that one.
That?
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Well, you can, well,
GUID is just a special case of that.
So example. So here, when I say add, okay? What's the URL for add? Sorry, not this one, add. Add here. The URL is call a controller and add it to the content item, which is the menu. How do I reference the content item, which is the menu? Using the content item ID.
Well,
fine, that works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that works. But, well, and this is the reflex when you want to implement something referencing a content item, you use its ID, whatever it is, a number, we just say, put me the content item ID. And in the document itself, the menu item is also, or relationship between content items, also will use the content item ID, because this is the most obvious thing to do.
Okay, I see. So this is precisely why I decided to not have internal technical IDs, but really using, promoting identity as really a first level concept. And this is actually the key to your documents in the database.
Yes, and this is what I'm asking. Should we have something which is not a number and which is unique, okay, and constant across databases as the content item ID? instead of 550, have something more evolved.
Yes, I absolutely, yeah.
Even if we have to, if we want to be able to change it manually, like I could say my identity is main menu, my content item ID is main menu, and beware about changing it. You might break everything.
Well, yeah, but you do have that possibility in your new identity.
Yes, but it's just, yes, we do have it. Yes, agree. It's not as risky as
you're telling people that it's dangerous, and you shouldn't do it.
So we can default with a grid, and if you want to define it at creation, fine, but you can't change it.
By default, yeah.
There is a special power like site owner which could change it if you want.
But yeah, getting rid of those technical internal IDs is really beneficial. I can tell you, it works and it's wonderful. If you can do it.
So yeah, and grids is ugly. I don't want to see my URL with grids everywhere.
Oh, definitely. I also avoid grids like the plague.
So what do you do then? You assign a nice name almost all the time?
Yes.
So you make the effort of saying, well.
Yeah. So in my case, it's either the file name when the documents are file based, or it's usually something derived from the slug.
So yes, by default, we could have the identity driven also by the slug like we do for the auto-route. It happens to match, but that's fine. They can match. There are two different things.
Yeah. Yeah, if you do have auto-route, then that should be the default. And then you have a few edge cases left, and that's the case where you use grids.
And then the notion of identity part doesn't make sense anymore because they all have a unique identity, which is
yes. Exactly. Yes.
Okay, that's what you wanted to say last time?
Well, this is how I designed it in Decent CMS. It's exactly that design. Exactly. Identity is a first level concept. It's a first class concept that actually doesn't rely on a part. There are a few handlers that deal with it, but all the content items have an identity, and that identity is what you use as the key in the database, what you use.
Well, I still don't want to use it at the key. I still don't want to use it at the key of the database.
Well, you have maybe
I will have
some implementation details at the level of the data access layer.
We'll have to
that doesn't it doesn't filtrate up to the user ever.
Because for instance, my article has a content item ID which is fixed, but it has 10 versions, and they are all different documents in the database. So the primary key is still unique per database. It's a physical primary key, and whatever value, it doesn't have to be, it won't be duplicated in other databases. That's fine. What will be duplicated is a content item ID. And
it's an implementation detail.
Okay. And having that as a first level concept is also interesting because then when we do import export, we don't have to try to resolve its identity again and again and again.
Yes. You already had it.
Yes, that's why I'm, okay. So you agree.
Yeah, because I told you 2 years ago.
Shh. 2 years ago.
And I did.
Yeah, but I mean, what else did I miss here? I have to jet kids. Yeah, kids. Okay. Anyone else has any comment? Sipke, you did a lot with import-export. I'm sure you agree with the pain and the solution.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Okay, so this is a big refactoring. It will change lots of things, URLs and everything, but I think that's for the good. And I will try to remove identity then. Well, it will be there and a type option to be able to change the identity and see it. And we will ensure that it's unique even if you type something.
Well, yeah, maybe the part still exists for the benefits of having admin shapes and stuff like that.
It can be a type settings. You don't.
But the storage is kind of special.
Yeah, it will be adding a, well, we have some cases like this for sure, but it's adding a part just to be able to display an editor.
Yeah,
where it,
so,
why,
yeah, so there might be a part, but it's still a very, very special concept.
But then why not use a typesetting?
Maybe, yes.
That's the same thing. It's just in the UI that you don't have the gesture of adding a part.
Yeah.
You have the gesture of checking a checkbox.
Yeah.
Typesettings plus minus permissions, because not everyone should be able to do that. Even if the typesetting is on, you still need the permission.
Yeah, but I guarantee that this is a good change and that you are going to see some more benefits that you don't see yet.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, and
it's one of those, you know, it's like you know, composing content types with parts. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
So has anyone solved the issue of GUIDs which are not really GUIDs, like simpler GUIDs? Could we have something like this by restraining some scopes? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure there are some shorter like things.
I've
seen some, but I don't know if there is a standard around it.
Or at least knowing the technique to do that, because GUIDs are 36 chars. If we could have,
you know, we could actually come up with something that is maybe a site ID plus.
Yes, we could hash an integer with the site ID, and that will solve the issues, because you need both.
We could come up with our version of unique identifiers.
Yep.
That doesn't need to be globally unique, but Orchard unique.
And again, it's just a token, right?
Yeah.
Well, if now it's a core concept, I'm not sure it should be a token. The UI should be a token.
And you know, you can do some funny stuff. You know, by generating pseudo words from syllables, so that at least you can memorize them. It's not A17 F G whatever. So yeah, we can think about all kinds of funny ways to do that. That would be better than GUID.
Well, I will do the change first and use a GUID by default, because when we do new content item, we need an ID, a content item ID which is unique, and then the UI can let you change it if you want. But until it's saved, it has to have a value.
Yeah, unless there is something better available. Yeah.
And then we can change also to a simpler implementation if you want later. At any time we can even change, by the way. So
yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good progress. So yeah, I think we make good progress on the site, and I hope we will soon be able to have a public site running on Orchard too. A blog should be pretty easy to do now. We have menus. We could have a blog now. Menu was the only thing which was blocking me, because if you want a blog, you want to add a custom page and to edit the menu without changing the theme, then now you can do that. Okay, we'll port your blog, Bertrand, on Orchard too. We'll import everything. You're fine with that, right?
Yep.
Good. Okay, thanks everyone. See you.